Well, it wasn't my decision. It was some members' decision who wanted to put up the resolutions and others who saw what happened on Thursday to put that up. We put the articles up on Monday, had due process, and the process worked today.
When you say the process worked, you were able to expel 2 of the 3 members.
No, it's not about the expelling or not expelling. The process is you gave them all each due process. They had the chance to defend themselves. Members had the chance to ask the questions, and then there was a vote. Based off the vote and the evidence presented and the testimony of those 3 individuals and one that had her attorneys, the votes were tallied, and that's what happened. That was the process.
Box 17.
What response would you have for those who feel like you've taken away the voices of the people, those protesters out there today?
Well, I think what you heard on the House floor today is that those members took away the voice of this chamber for 45 minutes when they were on the House floor, leading the protest to those and disrupting the business that we were doing. What I will say is there are consequences for action. I voted for all 3. Obviously, I thought all 3 should have been expelled. Some of the members did not feel that Representative Johnson should have been expelled.
There is a chance that these 2 will come back. I mean, do you feel like this was the right way to go, since there's a chance that, city councils can appoint them back into this?
I think it was on the floor. I can't remember which representative it was. Talked about the Constitution, and the Constitution lays out the process. And the Constitution says if you are expelled, it does not say that you can never come back. It says you cannot be expelled for the same thing twice. So the Constitution says basically you can be expelled, but you can come back. So that is a possibility that they could come back.
Let me say this.
Well, let me say this on that, if you don't mind. So we are talking about a temporary expulsion from the House. There is a pathway back for either of these representatives, either through appointment, through elections, through a variety of methods. We're not talking about permanently removing them from this body. They have an opportunity to go back and make their case to their communities, and there's roughly 70,000 people in each of their districts. If their community elects them to come back into here, that's fine. I hope at least that the message has been sent that we have rules that allow for everybody to be heard here. And you all heard me speak on that today. I didn't say a lot as part of this process, but one of the things I wanted to at least make clear is everybody's voice on this House floor is important, because each representative represents roughly the same number of constituents. My constituents' voice matters, as well as each of these folks. So I hope at least that if they return to this chamber at any point, that they know that the rules are important, not necessarily just for them, but for everyone, so that everyone's voice can be heard. We've got tough issues that we've got to resolve, but what I'm focused on, what we're focused on, is making sure that our schools are safer, our communities are safer, and that we make sure that every single child in this state knows they are safe at school. So that's what all of this got in the way of, and I'm ready to get back to work.
Channel 2.
How do you think the rest of the nation will look at this in the future? Since Tennessee is doing this, do you feel the rest of the nation is looking at this positively, or do you think this is a negative thing for Tennessee to stand out as?
Well, I think it's up to that individual person. There's people in states who believe that they should have been expelled, and there's people that believe they should not be expelled. It's not my determination to make them feel how they should feel. That's on them. What I will say is what you do know is that the process that's laid out in the Constitution that we went through today is a Democrat process. And so you went through, there was debate, there was presentations, they had a chance to answer questions, to make statements, to put on record what they felt like they needed to put on both sides, all the people. At the end of the day, 2 of the expulsions were granted, 1 was not. I would say that that's the Democrat process, and that's how that worked. People had their voice, people had the heard. You put it up for a vote, and then we come back on Monday and get back to work.
They apologized. Would it have been a different result? Could it have been a different?
Well,
I will say that to me, no, it would not. This wasn't about that. This was the fact that the rules of this House were violated, and the voices of 96 other members were silenced because 3 members selfishly stepped into the well and decided to make a spectacle to make the focus on just them. Instead of the protesters were here, instead of the 6 families who had not even buried their loved ones yet, they decided to make it just about them. It's not about them. It's about everyone. It's about all of us trying to get this done. It wasn't about an apology. That, in fact, one of these representatives that was expelled actually did apologize. I accepted that apology. I forgive him. It's not about that. It's about a violation of the rules that took the voice away from 96 different districts. They talked about 200,000 Tennesseans that potentially would have their voice taken away if they were expelled. Well, there's 6.8 million other Tennesseans, and every single one of their representatives has a right to be heard on this floor as well. You can't step into a chamber on any legislative floor in the country with a bullhorn during session and squelch out the remaining voices.
Why do you consider a rules violation that was a peaceful floor protest equally egregious as the most previous expulsion, where a sitting representative was found credibly to have sexually harassed nearly 2 dozen women?
Okay, well, first of all, it was a protest. I'm glad that you referenced a protest, whether it's peaceful or not peaceful. That's up to interpretation by those who were in attendance. Every member that was here today was a witness to those actions on that day. You didn't need to have an investigation based on all the witnesses were here at the time of the protest. What I will say is you do not use the House floor to protest. There are rules, there are policies, there are procedures that we all abide by. As you heard Representative Hawk said, there was how it was when he was here under Democrat rule. I'm not saying that was good, bad, or indifferent. What I will say is, as Republican leadership, since I became Speaker, people have more voices to be heard. There's more bills being passed. We had 6 bills from the Democrats that were passed today on the House floor. You were here. You saw it. Those were good bills that made it through the committee, that made it to the floor. We're not upholding their bills. We're not pushing back their bills. We're not purposely killing their bills. In countering rules today, there was a lot more bills that came through that they'll be here on the floor next week. So I appreciate you saying that there was a protest, because that goes to the point about what their activity was here on the House floor. I will say back here about apologizing, right? Is usually the practice is when someone makes a mistake, we ask them to apologize on the House floor. The Democrat caucus told me that Monday night they were going to stand up individually and apologize. They never did. I do not know why, but that's what we were told by the Democrat caucus. Now, it's hard to go back and say if it would have made a difference, because it never happened. Maybe it did, maybe it wouldn't have, maybe it been for some, maybe not for any. But the plan, from what I was told by the Democrat leadership, is they were going to do that Monday night, but they never did it. I don't know why.